this is part 2.
In previous chapters, we focused exclusively on the Americas, but not everyone made it to the New World. Many of the would-be founders of academia remained in Europe. So few of them remained that they soon had no other option but to scatter. Their dreams of utopia were left to their wayward brothers in America, but soon enough their mantle was picked up by a new generation of visionaries, the Academy of Science and the Occult, and later, the International Initiative for Advanced Research. In the summer of 1753, an incident known as the Erfurt disaster happened in Saxony. The details are lost to history, but we know the event was so shocking that it convinced the rulers of Europe that there are areas of science too dangerous for research by individual countries alone. An unprecedented conference of all European states was called, the Concert of Frankfurt. It was meant to discuss all the contemporary issues of the era. Sadly, it failed to prevent the outbreak of the 7 Years' War. It succeeded, however, in the formation of a new scientific organization, ACO, the Academy of Science and the Occult. It was created near the French-German border in Baden, along with an international fund meant to ensure their continuous operation. To make sure that no country could abuse their research, ACO had to be neutral. Areas administered by them were de facto independent, thanks to high levels of autonomy and protection of all major powers. As scientists from Europe flocked to the newly formed technocracy, a city was born. Since the town was friendly towards the Jews and welcomed Jewish refugees, the town gained the nickname Judenburg. For more than 100 years, the neutral city-state focused on science and research. Even as the Napoleonic Wars raged on, they remained focused on their studies. Their goal was simple: to liberate humanity with art and education. But then, Bismarck united Germany with blood and iron, and the existence of the independent academy came to an end. The global powers reconvened in Frankfurt, not just European ones, but also American, Japanese, organizations, and individual citizens. Among them were the representatives of the academia and the loyalists. At last, the descendants of those who organized that fateful expedition 300 years before were united. They announced the formation of a new global science organization. Around the world, countries pledged to support them, as many hoped international cooperation would prevent future wars. The 1873 Frankfurt Conference concluded with the dissolution of the ACO and the creation of the International Initiative for Advanced Research.
The initiative was heavily influenced by positivism, especially by the writings of Auguste Comte, later joined by those of Friedrich Nietzsche. But their conclusions and their answers to the world's problems were vastly different to all previous schools of thought. The initiative wanted to create a new humanity. Their new human would be physically, mentally, and morally superior to Homo sapiens, not only smarter and stronger, but selfless and compassionate. They knew well that they were limited by the technology of their time, and so the purpose of the organization became to pursue all science known to man. One day, they would develop the tools needed to bring forth an Übermensch. But technology doesn't have to liberate or reduce suffering, and can be used in war and genocide for oppression and tyranny. Initiative realized that, and they were not eager to share the inventions. Massive underground research laboratories were creating technologies decades ahead of everyone else, while the world remained mostly the same. The horrors of totalitarianism and the world wars strengthened their belief that contemporary humanity is rotten to the core, but to safeguard their neutrality, safety, and their bottom line, they continued to work with everyone, including dictatorships and colonial empires. Their ethical flexibility allowed them to make progress in areas others refused to even consider, with progress in biochemistry, genetics, electronic sentience and engineering. The dreams of Homo superior seemed within reach. But IIAR wasn't just content with waiting in their ivory towers for the world to end. They did champion humanitarianism. They helped people to escape from the Gestapo during World War II and were sending aid to the victims of epidemics, famines, and wars around the world. And for better or worse, only they were aware how much more they could do. All this changed in 1997, but that's a story for another time. This was part 2 of an alternative history called Babylon Underwater. If you are wondering how did the IIAR change, how the state of Prometheus lived through the 20th century, stay tuned for part 3. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe.